a little mischievousness. It's such a weighty purpose. It's useful sometimes to have a little break. Okay, so welcome.
It's day 5.
Day 5.
Tom, how many do we have online tonight? R8. Welcome. Thank you. Okay.
All right.
Is it tomorrow that it's supposed to do a little bit of snowing or the next day? Who knows? Anybody? Tomorrow. Okay, so it's going to be colder. Whoa. Okay, I missed that part, Burma. Ice storm, huh? Okay.
Well, it would be befitting of us now that we're midway. Doesn't get much worse than this. But we'll find out in the next day or two.
It's midway. That's
So
always
midway,
the big day.
Right, midway. And it's the nature of where there's been some break-in and familiarization and process and intensification of the quality of your consciousness. It is now different. You may not know it's different. We're usually the last to know. We're vibrating it because you can feel really shitty when it shifts, because you start experiencing and meeting parts of your subliminal self, your not so conscious parts, and it can be very uncomfortable, or you can feel really, really good. So either, both are options that may occur. It's all the process of this trajectory that we're on. So tonight we're going to address the conversation of being at cause. And it's come up for me that I feel that it's time to continue to address why a realized spiritual teacher puts so much focus on the content of our human embodiment, our psychological structure. There was a period of time with my awakening, especially when I went to India, where the third plane forces started opening up. These forces are extremely intoxicating. They give you senses of power and visions and experiences, tremendous seductions and energies like you've never known before. There's this bursting of possibilities that are way beyond what the human form can hold, but the subtle body, especially the human vital subtle body, which hold all our desires and all our wants, all our ambitions, is actually a domain in the subtle world where many, many, many spiritual seekers get trapped. When one meets someone who carries these very seductive energies, you just want to be with them always. You just want to worship them. You just want to be their devotee. And yes, I carry some of that energy too, but after years and years of being exposed to this, a time came where I recognized that this was not truth, that this was too intoxicating. This had too much of my ego in it, and these forces had too much ego in it, like they were competing with each other for positioning. There was this ambition. There were these distorting seductions that would activate the lower chakras in the vital system and would keep people in these states of enthrallment, myself included. And that when I made the decision to go not to play with them anymore, about some months later is when the samadhis began. And I remember how disgusted my teacher was when he saw that I was going into those samadhis, which lasted for 3.5 years. And it's those experiences that took me to a place beyond that dimension the dimension of the vital subtle world. There are higher domains than the vital domains. There are the mental domains. Many of these, of course, serve us along the way, and can be great aids if we're not seduced by their influence, or if we're not the target of their attention. Now, many of you in this room may not have had experience with that. Some of you may have. But there are people I am working with who actually this has been the nemesis of their spiritual progress over multiple lives, getting tangled up in that middle kingdom. And the core of the problem with that is that in those intoxicated relationships that could be created, you're not embodied enough to be able to move the particular piece of the collective content, karma, that is binding you and the rest of humanity. So it's perfectly fine in the play and the Leela of the divine in these worlds, but it's not consistent with the purpose of serving the collective consciousness. If people are in these states, they are not able to access their embodied human condition, and thereby be able to come to a place where they can discover that divine nature within them already, rather than something that's derived through association with forces of beings outside of yourself. And these includes the teachers and the instruments of these beings. So this is a very tricky field. I don't talk about it too much because there's really no resolution unless you have some experience. But they will keep you in a state where you won't be able to drop into the consciousness necessary to meet your particular structures of inherited samskaric patterns that will free you and free you to discover the truth of what you are. Now, I know there are many Western teachers, especially Ayurvedic, and Ramana Maharishi is a wonderful example of someone who had nothing to do with those beings, nothing to do with those kingdoms. And many awakenings that bypass those kingdoms are protected from those influences and that kind of treacherous entanglement that can occur in the involving consciousness. But it's likely that some of you have had past experiences with this, if not in this life, in past life. So it's interesting because we have someone who is right now in the thrallment of forces that come from the middle kingdom. And there is an alignment in their system that makes them feel this is the truth. Because it feels like that, by the way, compared to your human existence. But it's the ultimate bypass. So it brings us into the conversation of what this talk is about tonight, which is true authority. That is, there is a seeking in you that has brought you into this room that has a purpose to serve something greater, that wants to be useful, but also wants to be free, wants to be able to partake in the quality of consciousness you can recognize but can't hang on to or hold for very long. So this, I feel, is a very different sort of path. It's unique in that this is what the Bhagavad Gita of all paths point to, but also the Ayurvedic path, the path that seeks the absolute truth, that seeks the Brahman. So coming to personal responsibility, or to be at cause, is how you find this authority. Because there's two authorities. There's the authority of your ego, and there's the authority of your supreme nature. And they're intermingled. And it's hard to know because that true authority is contaminated by your wants and your needs and your desires and your hopes and your wishes, your ambitions, your fears also, the unexamined parts of yourself. So I remember a story I read about Sri Aurobindo and the mother of Pondicherry, where the mother had called in these forces. And people were having experiences left and right. And there was this wonderful acceleration of people's engagement in the community. And she went to Shree and said, see, look at the miracle that's being created around us. And he looked at her and he said, this is fine if you wish to be famous and rich, if you wish to create a world movement. But this is not our work. Our work is to bring people down into a place where they can be embodied enough to meet what's holding the collective consciousness in each of them, and thereby serve the unfolding of the opportunity of the collective consciousness from coming out of itself naturally as a spontaneous unfoldment as these structures are dismantled, not artificially by the injection of forces of another domain that can access us through primarily the vital, but also the mental domains. We human beings are actually in charge of the evolutionary opportunity of mankind. When we wake up to the truth of what we are, these divine beings, these interim beings, these subtle plane forces will come to serve it. But if we don't know our own authority, you'll end up serving them. And they have their own agenda. Gods have places and stations. They're competing for position. They have jealousy and envy. They have big egos. Very few human. Donald Trump's the nearest thing. Absolutely clear it's totally right and that everybody is wrong and they need to get it so they could get on board. So it's the nature of the vital beings that are always interfering with the unfolding of the opportunity of mankind, diverting us, defeating us, seducing us, telling lies and creating distortions. Where do you think this comes from? All these human attributes, they're up there with the gods. Before human beings came, they were the archetypes from which all of our personality types came from. There's a used car salesman up there. There's the gambler. There's the liar and the crook. All of these archetypal principles were there in the subtle world from the thought, even before the biology could catch up and started manifesting those qualities. So we're all acting out these archetypal forces as human beings. But we're the ones who take the hit for the consequences of the actions. They don't. It's a bad deal. It's a ripoff. And when they come, they're so convincing and they're so enthralling, all kinds of people fall at their feet in any form they may manifest, and they will all be left bereft in the end. So if you ever encounter stories of spiritual teachers, it's good to watch the post-teacher syndromes to see if actually there are some really empowered beings that came out of the teacher. So my purpose, it's very clear, it's for the world, but it's also for each of you. That the opportunity is for each of you to come to personal responsibility, to be able to meet and become responsive to those structures that are running you, that you do not yet know are running you, and meeting them in such a way that you gain authority over them, which I call presence. That spaciousness that doesn't so much reject, but holds the space for contradictory forces to be occurring concurrently within ourselves. So this is the battlefield. This is the true Gita. The Pandavas and the Kauravas are two aspects that we all carry. And they are always tricking and lying and manipulating and hiding out in order to manifest a possibility that's not yet been able to be manifest. This is why I say that when you meet the low in yourself, when you come to the ever reoccurring dejection, That is actually where the real spiritual work is happening, where you can bring the quality of presence you've been able to gather, the clarity you've been able to muster to those issues such that their nature can be revealed to you. And once they're revealed to you, they are yours. You own it. Ah, this is my weakness. Ah, this is my negative story. Ah, this is where I think I can't do it or where I think everyone else is wrong. Ah, this is my strategy for avoiding diminishment, to not have to experience fear or shame. That's owning it. It's not letting it run you. It's not it owning you. It's you owning it. Because when you wake up to that quality of true authority comes to you. Truth. The truth. You see through its hold over you. You see through its negativity. You see through the habit that you got sucked into without knowing it, that's keeping it in place. What does this lead to? It leads to you knowing yourself to be the supreme being. It leads you into the place where you can start creating freshly a new relationship with existence in the moments of your life. A very fundamental difference. And I must say that in the India tradition, this has been lost in the ceremonies, in the mantras, in the technology, in some of the lineages. The Gita is the only thing that's been able to keep alive something of it. That's my recognition. There's the other part, the part of the absolute, of the Brahman, where you strip away everything, you die to the world, and you live in the absolute present moment forever, as Ramana Maharishi represented. But that's not for the world either. That is only to be able to be free of the bondage for yourself. We're no longer in a time where we can do this, where it will fulfill our purpose. It will be a halfway, a partway journey if we can't manifest it. Now, Ramana ultimately manifested it. But he manifested it through extraordinary simplicity. He didn't propagate himself. It just happened. It just unfolded around him. And in that process, he discovered that it was his world too. He discovered what it would mean to be step down from the absolute and to perform a function for the world. That's what we're looking for. We're looking to come to that place of truth within ourselves, where there's nothing in it for us anymore except to serve this purpose. Now, if that inspires you, if you feel within yourself a longing for that, then this is your path. But don't be diverted and don't be confused, because for many of you, there will be a time where the subtle plane, the subtle vital plane will open up. And it may be so intensely convincing that it'll be hard to remember that purpose. It'll use the human in you, and it'll exaggerate the desire. It'll exaggerate the ambition. It'll exaggerate the moment, expanding, creating an unbalanced ego. We need flat-footedness. We need stable, steady, level-headed practicalness. We need to meet the problem face on without woo-woo. There is magic, but we don't rest in that magical, extraordinary things that may happen. We enjoy them, but then we keep engaged in whatever is left in our own trajectory. We keep doing the work. Keep up the practices. Keep up the inquiry. Keep learning how to come more directly in a relationship with yourself, the who of you, as well as existence as it is. So the more we empower the part of us that can be at cause, the more we're satisfied with whatever arises without an agenda. The more we can choose what is before us as an opportunity to further our purpose, to bring this into greater manifestation first within us, to those that are connected to us or come to us, and then to the world. And then you will be, me being here will not be a crutch. I won't be the trainer wheels. The trainer wheels will fall away and you'll find yourself riding the bike with no problem. That's my purpose. And each will find your own expression. Each of you will find your own modality for bringing that truth consciousness that you've been able to find into existence. But I'm the one that had to go beyond India. I'm the one who had to go beyond the chanting my teacher was doing endlessly. He was always evoking the subtle plane forces. To see through it and to recognize, as a Westerner with a strongly developed intellect, with a positive ego that was truly aligned with this extraordinary opening that had come to him, to be able to see through all that. And then the universe responded and created a new path for mankind, a new path for those of us who have been civilized at the level we've been civilized, and all our children and their children's children. And open the doorways where the struggle we may have to go through to bring ourselves to that consciousness will be less for them because we've already done it. That will heal not only our individual ancestral karma, but will heal the karma of the future that is yet to manifest through these new beings. You see, just understanding this makes you more responsive, makes you more able to be in responsibility to the opportunity of life as it's revealing itself to you, so that you don't get lost in like the story, this is too much, or I am not good enough, or I'm too uncomfortable, or I want it a different way, or I want to be more important, I want to be more seen than I'm getting seen or made important. You then use that as an opportunity to meet in you that cannot yet choose what is. And in that, claim that part of you that's still not claimed. Claim that territory as your territory in that quality of responsibility and causality. How am I causing this? How is it that the universe is showing up this way? What is my role in the unfolding of the circumstances or the reactivities that are in my life that I find within myself? What's the truth? What's the distilled fact? What am I making more important than it is? What am I making less important than it is? Now, if you're just willing, the force that I bring will support you in this process automatically. You'll find yourself making choices not fully clear why you made the choices till after you've chosen them. Or following my instructions. You will not be clear what my instructions are about until you follow them. They'll take you to places that you couldn't go with within the framework of the consciousness that you're currently at. That you borrow temporarily another consciousness so that you can find that other consciousness for yourself. And let anyone here who may end up be a teacher or a trainer or doing my work recognize that's what you're bringing for people. Not how magnificent or smart or capable you are or how much you can affect people, but to empower them to know their reason, their cause for existing, and to come to cause of that. The ego that we are, in its very basic core nature, in its purified form, without agenda, without fear, without need or desire, is no different than the Supreme Being. And it's here to serve the creation, to serve the opportunity of consciousness to wake up to its own nature and to be able to enter into its own existence in full authority, in full enjoyment, in full relationship with the opportunity of what it means to exist. Okay, so is that Satchmani? We'll read from the material and then we'll just see where that takes us.
Okay. Be it cause. The problem of life is that we are at the unwitting effect or victim of causes we do not recognize or understand. Finding the cause of why we feel, think, or do is the first step toward creating a new reality. A good entry point for this inquiry is to find where we feel we are in a victim position in relation to those around us or to our life situation. This victim position is the source of all suffering. It can arise from fear, attachment, resistance, or desire. As soon as we assign our happiness or fulfillment to something outside of us, we are set up to be at the effect of others and the outer world when things don't go well or the way we want them to. This is the source of all suffering, past, present, and future. This is the paradigm of all humanity. This is the paradigm all of humanity has wittingly or unwittingly accepted. It is an ignorant point of view that has bound all of us to misery and suffering.
Okay.
Good.
So the nature of this principle I'm labeling as victim. The nature of this is not our fault. It's simply the inevitable consequence of inhabiting a biological body that has needs and wants that came out of its evolutionary development from the animal kingdom. And the programming and conditioning and the influence of the environments and our parents and the people in our lives that have carried the error of that victim orientation into their lives. So we take this on. The I amness then questions its own existence. And it brings forward an experience such as, I do not deserve to be, or I have to earn the right to be. It puts us into a place that we're not okay as we are. I mean, it doesn't take psychological trauma for this to happen. Even well-adjusted human beings bring a compensating structure for that completely diminished condition into existence, but they perhaps had more support. Perhaps they had more sense of well-being. Perhaps they were held enough or gave enough attention, or the parents were good enough models that they weren't as bound as others. But it will still be where they fall when things don't go well, when they don't get what they want, when something they've gotten used to is burned or destroyed or dies, or in their own illness or their own diminished condition. So the underlying basis of suffering comes from that place we call victim. Now, it has some other characteristics, and the most fundamental is I am separate. With the I am, we're no longer the am. When you're the am, you're everything all the time. Children can live in the am until something reminds them that they're an I. What are you doing? Shut up. You're too noisy. Quit picking on your sister. And then the I comes in. Oh my God, what did I do? So the am is free. The am is a being. There's no question. It's not a victim or not a victim. But it's only through the I that we can discover our true authority. It's only the I that grows through the developmental stages of a human being. And it's only the I that can consciously travel the spiritual journey that takes us to that principle of that amness that was the foundation of all I's. So this principle of I, me, or my, in its purest form, is the means by which the universe can know it exists. It's the means by which the universe can experience existence. It's the means by which the universe can learn and grow and understand and evolve and discover what actually works and how it works and how to use that information so that life can be more full and rich and satisfying. No accident. It is a design. It's a name. It's built into the very structure of the design that allows us human beings to exist. Right? We exist. We think, we worry, we want, we dread. We can be unhappy like no other creature on the planet. What kind of universe creates this? Is it just a random collection of events that occurred over eons and eons and unspeakable periods of time, where enough molecules and chemical elements got together where something could come into existence? Or is it intelligent and purposeful? It's clear to me, there's no doubt in me, it's my direct experience that it's always been intelligent and purposeful, and we are representatives of that purposeful intelligence. And we have this capacity for independent action, this capacity to choose, the capacity to measure the worth of something and test its utility, to learn from the error, to gather a body of wisdom and knowledge about how to do anything, make pottery, build plumbing, houses, whatever. We carry a lineage of the discoveries of all of humanity, and we're living in the fruit of that intelligent, purposeful activity right here, right now in this room. The clothes you wear, the comfort of the mattress you sleep in, the hotness or the warmth of your water or your room. We're being held by the manifestation of this intelligent purpose, which goes way beyond the apparent utility of human happiness. As if beauty is made just for us to see it. There are states when you are walking and you notice that the trees are looking at you. We are an extraordinary expression of a divine principle on this planet, and we're calling ourselves these poor little miserable human beings. So it's an error. It's not an error that's ours. It's an error that we've come to transmute by waking up to our divine purpose, waking up to why we're here, and being able to discover that in us that is refusing to wake up or is identified, attached, or desiring something outside of itself that will not serve that process. It may serve. It'll serve through suffering. The way you learn how to do something right is to do it wrong for a while, maybe a long while, maybe lifetimes. So doing it wrong is part of the process. So learning to be with doing it wrong is part of the skillfulness of living. To be able to live in that diminished condition but not be identified with it gives us an ability to enter into domains of life that everybody else is running away from, building houses and fortresses and just living in the world through their computer tablet to avoid. So the victim orientation you can find in yourself. Anytime you think there's something greater outside of yourself by which you are in need of, then you have to always question if this is true. And if you do, then there has to be a willingness to choose that thing outside of yourself to assist you in coming to that place where you can know it for yourself. So you use others to learn from, to discover. You choose a spiritual teacher to assist you to discover what it is the teacher already has. That means to learn, to have access, to evolve in your own relationship with existence in a way that perhaps you couldn't do on your own. It would take a lot more time doing it wrong than you would have to if you had a teacher. Or it's another form of saying apprenticeship. To apprentice yourself with those that know how to be in existence in a way that you sense within yourself would bring you more fully into existence. So it's all mingled in there. This true aspiration to come truly into existence, and this need and clinging and desiring to have something that you believe you do not have. Even on the spiritual path, this is there. As aspiration and longing, often intermingled with human need, human desire. It's the first entry point. It's always going to be there. It's not right or wrong, but it's over the course of time. It's for us to be able to come to this desireless place that could continue to bring that quality that you long for into existence without clinging to it or measuring your worth in association with that. So one of the foundations of being a cause is to get that you're okay just as you are. To get that, in fact, on the spiritual path, the real lesson, the thing to learn is you don't need to be any different. It's not about fixing you. It's not about making you better, smarter, more clever, more intelligent. It's rather about learning to be in relationship to what you are as you are. See, without that, there's no start point. Without you knowing yourself, then you're starting at some place you're not. So you first have to find out where you are and learn to be okay in recognizing, okay, this is what it is for me. It's different for them over here or there, or in my mind, sometimes I think it's different for everybody than for me. But that this is where I am, if that is so. And let me ask that question, is that so? But that I am okay in this being the case, because from here I can grow into something more than I've been. Now, for me, when I discovered that I couldn't speak like other people, I couldn't learn like other people, I had that as a constant remembrance. That everybody else was doing it and I couldn't do it. My whole family was smarter than me. My brother had an IQ of 176. So it was just like, and I was the dimwit. And there was this place where I could recognize that my brother could remember everything he saw or anything he heard fully. The whole song, first time. Look at the book. Oh, yeah. No effort, straight A's all the way through school. Me, I couldn't damn remember anything. I have to recite a poem I'd have to work for in a week, and then I'd lose it after a week. I had to learn by repeating and repeating, and then even then, I had to check myself. So I grew very young to accept that that was where I was. And for some reason, I don't know why, it didn't defeat me. As a matter of fact, it became a challenge. It became, okay, well, then what do I have to do that? And I do believe that that entire orientation is what brought me here in front of all of you. Because I had to go beyond, I had to discover the okayness that I was. That there were some times where I was really happy to be me. There were moments in my childhood, moments in my life where I felt I knew courage, where I could see myself in relationship with others where they were suffering and that wasn't required for me because I was in charge of living my life. I can see where I was less dependent on other people, relatively speaking, because I knew that I couldn't compare myself with others because it wasn't going to come out in my favor if I was going to choose that as a measure of my worth. I had to deal with what I could deal with. And then as the course of my life, as I grew older, miracles happened. I discovered I could run a marathon in 3 hours and 15 minutes, and I never ran a marathon before. I discovered things that I never knew was possible. I mean, I'm sure I can't recount to you all the adventures snow camping where it took such strenuous effort just to survive that I took for granted. And it wasn't until afterwards that I would see, wow, where did that strength come from? Why wasn't I afraid? Something else was at play. So this uncovering of this of what we are requires us to know who we are. And that each of us have our set of strengths and weaknesses that are ours, that come with this body, with this life, with this situation. Owning that is your start point. Coming to cause, responsibility for the predicament you find yourself in without using it to feed a negative story, without using it to measure your worth, without using it to determine your future. Okay, so that's the opportunity. I'm languaging it right now, but the purpose for you is to try to find this within yourself. Where have you unwittingly given away your okayness to other people, to what they think of you, to what you think they think of you? Worse yet, because they're so busy worrying about what you think of them that they don't even know what you're thinking. Where you give away that capacity in you to take a chance, to step outside of the box, to be bold, to follow a desire that's true for you. Because some desires are true. Desires that are true are often our dharma, the things that break us out of the box of our previous way of being and steps us into a more expanded and true way of being. So just notice it. And one thing you should know, right here, right now, is the start of the rest of your life. That all that you have done in the past is no longer relevant unless you make it relevant, or if it is actually relevant. That right here, right now, is the opportunity to create a new relationship with yourself, with your relationship with who you are, and what is possible for you. And to take actions when you leave this interval aligned with the unfolding of that. Because when you're at cause, there's no one else to blame. When you're a cause, it's not about shame. It's not about being right or wrong. It's not about guilt or doubt. It's a whole different paradigm of evaluating what's arising. It doesn't carry the remnant, the rumination that comes after actions where we doubt it, where we question ourselves, where we feel bad about it, feel regret or shame or guilt. None of those are useful. They're ruminations that keep us stuck in the victim position. And although there may be a measure by which our actions are effective or not effective, but let that be it. Let it be something that brings us into responsibility with our life more fully as being effective, and that which takes us out of responsibility of our lives being ineffective. Where did I choose this relationship rather than blame this relationship or blame myself? Being a cause is not about being wrong. It's not about being right either. It's not about being guilty or feeling bad. It's about seeing what worked and didn't work and take that body of information to bring into the next present moment as you continue to create and come into your existence more and more fully at cause. That's what we're doing here. Those of you who have been with me some time, that's what's happening to you. You're coming into existence more and more fully. And in the process, not only learning who you are, but also having access to what you are, and thereby to the purpose of your existence. So these aren't intoxications. These aren't infatuations. These are the outcome of correct action. These are the outcome of perceiving the nature of reality directly and responding to it consistent with what is needed from us. It's learning to grow into a relationship with existence that's not determined by how we were in the past, not determined by the story that we can't do it, or it's too much, or our complete belief that overwhelm is the measure of what's possible. That we can only go as far as our overwhelm will allow us. So this is how you break out of this shroud, this habit of staying small, this habit of thinking small is better, this habit of thinking being childlike, being dependent on others, feeling safe, feeling secure is more important than being in truth. The spiritual path is where you really, truly have the opportunity to explore this possibility. Doesn't sound possible before. If you're just at the beginning, if the self has not come, if you don't have some solid basis of beingness, then this work is not possible. The past, the human will be too close in the conscious of the wake and what. The who is still too close. The what is there and the who's right next door. But when you wake up and you move outside of our individual reason for existing and into serving something greater, we step further away from that little miserable self, and we become more and more able to perceive and recognize these false structures within us that are preventing us from fulfilling our purpose. And that is the reason you do this, because you serve something greater. It's a call up to a way of being than the one you've been before. like an opportunity, not a demand, an opportunity to breathe more deeply, to feel more fully, to know more broadly than you've been able to before. And to draw in the process on an energy source that's beyond what you could imagine was possible for you. You want unlimited energy? Serve something bigger than yourself. Anybody who serves something bigger than themselves knows that you can do much more than you thought you could by yourself by serving something larger than yourself. Okay, it's gone.
What is our state when we are in this victim position? Its foundation is fear. Fear of loss, fear of not getting what we need or want, fear of dying or of non-existence. Fear traps our attention in the outer world. We become focused on what others think of us, on getting agreement for how we see things, on avoiding diminishment, and enhancing our point of view. This is our egoic position. It is the foundation of the false, unreal point of view that underlies the apparent reality of our life.
And not just your life, everyone around you, everyone you hear about or watch in the media. Everybody is acting out a compensating structure of that smallness, of that separateness, of that woe, me, needy self. I don't need anything. Who seek power because of their powerlessness. That seeks to be seen because their inability to have been seen. If you just look at the big figure, Donald Trump, what is it? His need to be seen is more important than the consequence of his actions. His ability to compensate for that vulnerability is extraordinary. It really is unusually extraordinary. That's how he got where he was. He was able to endure anything so that he could get a little more juice. And now he is at the top of the heap, the most famous human being on the planet. And it's not enough. And now he's getting irritable. He's getting unstable. Because the whole organizing principle required an outer world. And now that somehow he's conquered it, what else is left for him? Some have to go higher in order to fall farther. Hopefully, we only have to go so high so we don't have to fall as far. The lessons will come. He may not happen in this life, but it will happen soon enough. It's true for all of us. But we can also get addicted to getting attention with our victim story. The woe is me. Let me tell you my uniquely terrible problems. Only I can suffer like I suffer. It's the inherent structure behind an identity that's organized around its diminishment. And they tromp around just as righteous as Donald Trump, but in their small, dirty little pond of people who feed off of that. Well, let me help you. Or yes, we're both so victims. Let's hold hands, sing Kumbaya. We exaggerate our problems by finding others who have matching problems. This is how we keep ourselves protected in our identity, by having those around us who will believe our victim story. I caught you. And you're the responsible party in that case. You're the one who pays the price. You create a convincing construct that compensates, yet at the same time keeps yourself in that familiar misery. And then we can gossip about other people. Favorite pastime. Let me tell you about what I heard. I have something you don't know. Let me share it with you. Because then I know you don't know. And I get to be the knower. Gossip. Sweet, juicy. Talk about shame, blame. So we have many structures that keep us trapped that came with the unfolding of the human beings who are naturally gregarious, naturally seek connection with each other, looking to find a position with each other so they're not alone. So it's not just our own individual journey, but the way we've designed our life, the people we choose to associate with, the people who we make important, who we marry, who we attend to. So we are creating our lives from that victim consciousness until we wake up to us doing it. And when you do, when you start waking up, all those friends start gossiping about you. They start not wanting to hang out with you. You become the pariah. You become the unwanted one. Then you have to endure the process of standing on your own. If you're not used to it, it is difficult. Standing on your own means doing what you know is true, even when you can't find agreement, even when it's opposed, even when people who are important to you get angry at you for the choices you're making. And not change your mind for them, not give away that truth that came to you so you could still get their attention or their acceptance or their love or their inclusion. So you can't be a cause as long as the organizing principle of your life is to aggregate people and things outside of yourself to help keep your life safe. Because safe isn't really safety. It's a psychological state where we don't have to change. Because if we have to change, then we have to be vulnerable. Then we would have to not know how to do something. Then we would have to step out of our control, out of our knowledge base, outside of what we can experience or actually normally be able to incorporate or handle, like a new job or a new school or a new topic that you're learning right from scratch. You're always going to have to be in that place where you're not going to know, and you're going to be lesser than perhaps others around you. And you don't want to feel that. You don't experience that. You don't want to find yourself judging yourself in comparison of other people, not because they're judging you, but because of how you feel when you compare yourself to others. So then you have to defend yourself in some way. You have to say, well, they don't know anything. You can call them arrogant assholes. Whatever may be the particular orientation in this incredible weave we can do when we bring our ego out into the domain of other egos. If we can't wake up to the fact that we're doing that, if we can't recognizing the strategy of our ego as it's choosing who it's being with or choosing what it makes important or choosing what not to do or to avoid, then we are condemning ourselves to not being able to come free from that condition of diminishment, which might feel safe, but it's a false safety. Because in the end, everything you've been avoiding will come to you in spades. Accumulates. It builds up and builds up. And if you succeed in avoiding it long enough, then it comes with greater force to teach you the lesson. I didn't design the universe. I am telling you this is just how it is. You cannot stay small because it's not aligned with your purpose or existence. Therefore, you're sinning. You're violating the purpose of your existence every time you retreat into your smallness, into your complaint, into your justification and rationalization, into your protection racket, into getting agreement for your ego. Every time you go out and manipulate the world to serve your existing smallness and compensating structure, you are sinning. You are creating a consequence. Karma is not just action, it's also the consequence of action. You're creating karma because you're not serving your purpose. Now, of course, the more awake you are, the more critical this becomes. Otherwise, every other human being is just working from one victim position to another less or more victim position. And therefore, they're carrying consequence all the time. But it's the difference, the impact, their ability to learn the lesson of the consequence isn't there. So they don't realize that by believing their negative story about themselves and the world around them is keeping them there. That's why you die. Because then you wake up and you say, oh, fuck. Wasted another life. Didn't get the lesson again. When am I going to get over this one? Maybe I can do better next time. And then you forget. And you do the same thing again. And again. And again. Until the soul grows weary enough that it cannot tolerate being that way. And then we begin to wake up. That's the ultimate dejection. It no longer works for me to pretend I'm happy so that people think good of me. You just become whatever you are. Even as a limited human being, it no longer works for you to pretend to be other than what you are. And you start noticing these people because they're really direct and frank, and actually in their own way, you know where you stand because they let you know what's going on for them about you. You can learn from these people better than the other ones that are lying to you or not wanting you to know what they really think. So we get irritable enough that we can no longer pretend. We cut the bullshit. We get straight. Scary shit, ain't it? But it's more real. It's more authentic. Satchmai is feeling justified.
I wasn't really responding from that place.
Entertained by the whole conversation. And then we begin to actually learn. We begin to actually grow when we drop this dependency and we start waking up. And then opportunity, the life becomes interesting. It becomes much more interesting than just accomplishing what your parents wanted for you or being able to look the way you wanted to look or to have the power you saw in others that you wanted to have for yourself. These are weak payoffs. They don't last. After you've drunk of them for a while, you're looking for something else. But this immediacy, this edginess, this authenticity, this I have no other choice but to be true, that's the true authority. And from that place, you can start coming to causality. You can recognize, I see, I am creating this. I'm the one who's choosing the person to be more important than myself. And I'm empowering them so that when they think poorly of me, I believe them. Or when they give me a criticism, I feel their criticism is truer than my own body of knowledge about myself. And instead of learning from it, we become defeated. It's only because we give them more power. If they're equal, then they give us criticism. We'll experience it as an opportunity to correct. We'll experience an opportunity to see it from another point of view than the way we saw it before. And therefore, we will learn from the criticism. We'll learn from the failure. We'll learn that we have a perspective. We become skeptical of our assumptions without diminishing ourselves. We become into this sort of objectification of our own emotional body, of our own mental structures of thinking. We become more equanimitous. We take things less personally. We become less reactive, less impulsive, because we know we don't really know, rather than think we know and not, or not even know we don't know. We become more skillful in the unfolding of the opportunity of life, and in that process, begin to discover our true authority. Life is what it is. We choose how to be with it. We choose how we experience it. We may not know we're choosing it. It may be our conditioning that chooses it. But we can catch on that I am choosing to be miserable, yet everything about me is perfect. I am choosing to be dissatisfied, even though I have everything I want. I am preferring dissatisfied than happy because I have nothing to talk about when I'm happy. I have a lot to talk about when I'm dissatisfied. And I like to talk. So that's kind of diving into this conversation, because it's a summary. It's a building on the basis of all our previous conversations, so that we can come and be in a place empowered sufficiently to begin to meet these strategies, the structure within ourselves, and come to greater responsibility with them. To let go of the old payoffs, the old little miserable payoffs like being right, having a good argument, and come into something more authentic, more alive, and more true, where not only you are empowered, but the person or persons you're interacting with are empowered. Okay.
So I'm going to change the this around just a little bit, because I think this got moved and it wasn't supposed to.
But aren't we at the path out of this point of view?
Well, we're at the path out of this, but the second part is this here.
Okay.
So I'm just going to read it that way. The path out of this point of view has 3 steps. First, find the unexamined, conditioned victim point of view that is currently shaping your reality. Second, dismantle your identification with it. Third, enter into your true causal state of being, where you are able to be at cause.
Now she's jumping.
I'm going to jump to the first paragraph on the next page. Each step arises naturally from the previous. Life becomes an ongoing process of recognition, revelation, and realization as your intent starts manifesting in your life.
Okay. So these 3 steps, the most important is the first. This is the wake up and get real step. You find it. You find that unexamined, conditioned victim point of view within yourself. You catch yourself in the act is how you find it. And if you can't catch yourself in the act, then look back on your recent life and find where you were in the victim position. Because then that'll prepare you for when you go into life into the future, for recognizing it when it comes. And now the victim position may not be, remember what it is. It's a position. It's a paradigm. It says, I'm not good enough. And the world comes up to prove that. The victim position is an attitudinal orientation, which no matter how life is, interprets what rises that matches the paradigm of I am a victim or I am not good enough. The nature of consciousness becomes the lens by which we view existence and interpret it consistent with how our attitudinal orientation about ourselves and the world. So catching the victim position is to notice you're looking. watching the nature of the perceiver and how it interprets events that arise.
Why don't I go ahead and read that paragraph and you can expound on it?
Okay.
So step 1 is reveal the victim. First, you seek to find the unexamined, conditioned victim point of view that is currently shaping your reality. Being in the victim position is actually an unconscious condition of immaturity. It is an adaptation, a means of survival to avoid unwanted experiences and to try to control your world.
Okay, let me stay with that one too. Because we have two parts of our natures. We have an independent part and a dependent part. The victim position is actually the dependent part that we have not grown out of. It still wants to be taken care of. It still wants mommy or daddy to save them. It still wants somebody else to do the hard thing. It is that part of us that's still childlike and doesn't want to have to come up into responsibility in life. Okay, so if you're looking for revealing the victim, so part of that is to look where you're still being like a child. The dependency structures, the need structure, the story about what's wrong with you and what you need to be okay. All that is a design of the victim. It has a mental and emotional and physical component. They're all there. So finding it is the first thing. Dealing with it from that point, we'll talk about as we go on.
Okay. So step 2 is dismantle a victim. Next, you seek to dismantle your addiction to the victim position. It is the beginning of reclaiming the fact that you are the author of your own life. This step will allow you to see the costs of your victim position and how it prevents you from creating a life that is aligned with truth, love, and wisdom.
See, the disadvantage of the victim position is it's limited in its scope. It can't imagine other possibilities than the ones it's already experienced or the ones it's in need of. So part of the victim position, it always puts us into a relationship with existence where our expectations are not matching the opportunity. So we end up betrayed or disappointed to reinforce our victim position. So we unwittingly create a future through that paradigm that keeps reinforcing our need, our dissatisfaction, our not getting what we want, or proving that we're not good enough, and go into that depression or that wallowing that comes with it. See how tenacious and nasty this shit is? And this is all your suffering. This is the whole misery package being described for you so that you can begin to find this and how you're unwittingly feeding it by taking actions or thinking thoughts or speaking or making choices based on that need, fear, desire, dependency structure. So the addiction, the human body doesn't know. It can get addicted to anything. It's completely resilient. It will make anything you give to it into something it can live on. It will become the means by which the ego will survive. And if betrayal and dissatisfaction and misery is what it gets programmed with, well, then it learns to eat that. It learns to survive on that. As a matter of fact, it starts creating cellular structures that become dependent on that childlike diminished condition. So that if you start acting otherwise, it starts going through withdrawals. And it doesn't know how to be without its misery. It doesn't know how to be without its diminishment. It doesn't know how to stand in the uncertainty of going outside of the boundary of that diminished condition allows you. When you can see this, when you can catch this in yourself, when you can see how you've been feeding this immature part of yourself, that's an empowering recognition. That's the beginning. And I don't know if it goes there here. Let's go on and see where it goes.
Okay.
This step will allow you to see the cost of the victim position, because right now the rewards are the ground of your being as an ego. I don't have to grow up. I don't have to be responsible. I can stay hidden. No one needs to know. It's a payoff that keeps us in the victim position, so that when we step out of the victim position, then the danger is I'm going to be exposed. I could truly become a victim in that case. It doesn't know how to come into life and be exposed and not collapse back into that victim position, because it did it from desire. It did it from need before. It didn't do it as a purposeful inquiry into coming into existence more truly. So there's a new paradigm possible. And of course, one of the price is align your lack of ability to feel truth, love, I would say even more, aliveness, to feel alive. Then the thing that doesn't say here directly, but it's when we discover the victim position, then we choose to take actions not aligned with it. That means counter to the victim position. And not to act on what that victim position prompts you to do. If the impulse is to find someone to listen to your tale of woe, then stop doing that. Stop speaking your tale of woe. Literally, stop speaking it. Because every time you speak it, you make it real. Every time someone hears your tale of woe and responds, you empower its reality. So the first thing you have to do is stop doing that. Start learning how to hold back that structure in you that keeps perpetuating that diminished aspect of yourself. And then to take counter actions and to endure calmly the vulnerability and the discomfort, the uncertainty, the anxiety that arises by doing so. That's the only way. You have to enter into the battlefield and meet those unwanted experiences. Now, maybe you do it one step at a time. Maybe you do it within your own self. You play out the scenario, and then you have the counter conversation. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do this, right? Somebody at work who you can't stand to be with. By the way, repulsion is also one of the expressions, compensating structures of our victim positions, to be repulsed by someone. You're repulsed by someone, then that's also a reflection that they are manifesting a quality in you you're not yet owning. So what you can do is the person that you really, let's say, working with, instead of avoiding them, you be friendly. Hi, how are you doing today? I brought you a flower. Thank you for being you. And just feel the revolt in you. No way, this isn't true. This isn't possible. No, they don't deserve it. Doesn't make any difference what they get out of it. They may get something you can't know yet. But what you get out of it is you neutralize that whole negativity of your repulsion. You begin to neutralize it, because you can't just do it once. You have to do it every now and then. You have to fake it. You have to pretend like you could like them. Watch what happens. See, if you want to have friends, be friendly. This isn't just a quaint saying. This is actually a technique. If you want to have love, be loving. If you want to have people to be straight with you, be straight. But if you want somebody to agree with your negative story, well, then just keep doing what you're doing. But it won't serve you, and there will be a price. So there's another way of coming into existence than the one you've been living from the paradigm you've taken to be real. See, that's the problem. You're defining your reality by this victim point of view, and it's not accurate. It isn't true. It's not effective. It won't bring you what it is you truly need, not what you think you need. All right.
Okay. Come to cause. This is a spontaneous event that follows from the previous two steps. When you reveal the victim in yourself and realize its costs, something real is manifested. You come to cause and empower yourself to choose and create, to live a more immediate, direct, authentic life. Instead of being the victim of your life, you can see how you have unwittingly created it that way, and we see how to create a new life.
So I had a person who was a student of mine who was very developed in his awareness, but really had trouble with his relationships with other people. And I was working with him, teaching him, okay, well, be aware of your heart before you speak and other things, but they weren't really making much difference. And when he went on his own, started working in his own apartment, he finally came to me after some months and said, I really hate the people I work with. They irritate me. I can hardly control my anger. It's like I want to destroy them. I don't know how to continue this job like this. So I said, okay, well, I want you to imagine sending a beam of love from your heart to their heart. And he said, bullshit. I don't want feel-good bullshit. I want to know what is true, what's real. I said, look at nothing that's arising in you is true. It is bullshit. This love might be the only one true thing you can create. So go ahead, try it. Fuck you, I'm not going to do it. I knew I shouldn't have come talk to you. About a week later, he calls me. I don't know what you did, but I really love the people I work with. I can't tell you how different it is for me when I can find myself choosing to love them. The first time it was impossible. I couldn't believe it. But the second time something started happening, the third and the fourth time. And I'm sure this happened because he's been with me for some years by this point. Something was starting to happen. And since that time, he actually met a woman and he had his first authentic relationship of his life. And he's been able to keep it going because he keeps choosing to love that person. So he has created a relationship outside of the victim paradigm and has created a new reality for himself, which he's now bringing in various areas of his life, as long as he doesn't get overtaken by his guna cycle, by the way. Still has his guna cycle. But he has a way of coming out now when he comes back to himself. So I want to go back to the paragraph we skipped.
Well, wait.
Oh, wait, that's the last one?
Well, no, let's see. There's the last one, and then there's the
last one. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll read this one. This one you don't really need to talk about, I don't think. Mm-hmm. All steps are interrelated. They may not always occur linearly as described here, as each contains something of the others, but each strengthens the other and will deepen the understanding and recognition needed for the entire process to begin moving us away from fear and suffering into a life of purposeful intention. From that state of being, it is possible to create an intention to manifest a new reality for your life based on what is true and what moves us into relationship with existence. This allows you to create a new paradigm for your life, a new context for the content of your life.
Okay. It's like magic. You're making shit up from nothing. So just imagine a context that everything that's showing up in your life is to show you the way to come to a more full and true and real, authentic and loving relationship with existence. Just imagine it. Make it up. Write it out. Put it someplace on a sticky, someplace you can remember. This is the context I have created out of nothing so that I can walk into my life and start seeing life through that lens, not the lens that I've been habituated to, that I believed was the only reality possible for myself, that I gave emphasis and agreement and took actions based on. And then within that context, take actions, skillful actions aligned with having those things showing up, like simple things. Smile. Victims don't smile. So smile. Hi. How are you today? I don't want to know how they are. They want something from me. I want to come up with a conversation. Do it anyway. And then watch them light up. Just watch them light up. And then just be there in their illumination. And if you're there in their illumination without getting anything from it for yourself, and just a space for them to be in response to the space you gave for them by smiling and asking them how they were. They may be any which way. They may be so stuck in their victim position. They say, fuck you. I'm not going to talk to you. So give them space to be where they are. But in that moment, you're not the victim of their reaction. You're the creator of an opportunity for them and for yourself. That's what you can do here. That's what you can do with the force, the consciousness that you have now. Is that imagine, make up, because that's what you're going to have to do, because based on your conditioning, you can't trust anything that comes from your conditioning. You could imagine coming into existence in such a way that what shows up is a purposeful showing, an opportunity for you to come into a more direct and immediate relationship with the divine reality that lives you and all existence. That's New Dharma's mission statement. That's all the action that I'm taking is on the basis of that paradigm. That everything is showing up as an opportunity for you to learn to live in a more authentic, direct relationship with the divine reality that you are and everyone else and everything else is. Now, isn't that cool? And I've been doing this for years and years and years. And you know what? It's working. You're the evidence of it. And I want to propagate this. I want you to go out like Johnny Appleseed, right? Be Johnny Appleseed to go out and plant this possibility for being that no one ever could imagine based on their conditioning was possible. It's not Pollyanna because you now have enough authority. You have done enough distance. You've traveled this journey to some extent, and this can be the means to effectively empower yourself to travel further by being able to discover that all along you were unwittingly creating your life as it was. So have faith in my words. And if you follow these instructions, miracles will happen. For some of you, maybe it's to find a real, true, loving companion. For some of you, it's to heal a relationship with your parent. For some of you, it's to heal a relationship with your existing relationship. So you can move on, so they can move on. So you can be empowering each other instead of keeping each other small. Perhaps some of you is to handle your material insecurity. to be able to come into existence where you can begin to see the opportunity to come to a relationship with your money or your finances that is about sufficiency and not scarcity. And how to be in relationship with that for yourself, managing your behavior and taking the correct actions so there is sufficiency. Being responsible for what you don't do in the process that would allow that to happen and changing that behavior. So for each of you, you have that thing you've been looking to come to, you've already experienced at least at times in your life or on the spiritual path. How do you bring that into existence so it becomes a lived reality for yourself? You have within you the very same initiating creative force that created this existence. The quality of that force is it makes something real. The quality of your attention is that it can make something real to its attention, bring it into existence by attending to it. So what we attend to is what we create. And if we create a way of looking, of attending, that serves something greater than ourselves, then guaranteed it will become real in time. The actions have to be consistent, applied over time. And before you know it, you'll create some agreement because you'll be creating new relationships with existence than the one you've had before. And that will start dismantling the convincing reality you had given to the victim position, and you'll start empowering the new reality that you're creating. This is miracle shit. This is magic. This is the ability to create for yourself, as the perceiver, as the experiencer, a new reality. Okay. So this is what personal responsibility is. This is what leads you to true authority. You take this direction, you find out if it works, then your willingness to empower my words and bring it into your life becomes effective way of you seeing for yourself the truth of it. You take a piece of the reality that I have and make it yours, and empowers that true authority you are. I helped you do that, but you're the one who is doing it. Krishna never fought the Mahabharata. Arjuna fought the battle. Krishna just pointed the way. Krishna brought his love and support to Arjuna so that he could follow the way. But it was Arjuna who had to learn how to be in existence in a different way than he had before in order to defeat this conflicting structure that was disempowering his ability to go into life, to be in life. So it's nothing new. This is an ancient teaching. If you listen to the words of Krishna, where he's coming from the same place I'm coming from. He was empowering Arjuna to fight the battle. He wasn't empowering Arjuna to be his devotee or to believe in woo-woo or to have happy thoughts. Don't waste your time. Okay, there you have it. So we're going to finish with another meditation. Aren't you happy? Created out of nothing now. Happy meditation. Whatever arises in meditations, this is absolutely perfect. Let us meditate.